in partnership with Guitarist Streaming 352. You are watching Artist Talk with your host, me, the Dreamer. Let's get this started. All right. We are live. We are live. We are live. Good morning, everybody. How's it going? Happy Wednesday to everybody. I hope everybody's well. What a beautiful, beautiful morning it is. It is my absolute honor and privilege to be hanging today, to be hanging this morning on Artist Talk featuring Mr. Rich Antonelli, who is the lead guitarist and most wonderful inspirational musician. And the right-hand man portrays Richie Sambora in the nation's #1 leading Bon Jovi tribute band, Bon Jovi. And without further ado, normally I'll just run through this real quick. You can find Guitarist Streaming 352 on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And if you like my content, please consider stopping by my PayPal, where every cent, every penny that comes in my PayPal, no matter how big or how small it is, does not go in my pockets. It goes to improve the show, to grow my channel, and bring better telecasts, better lighting, and everything I need to put on a better show for all of you. And whoever visits my PayPal will get their name mentioned when I say thank you, just like this. Let's go up here. First off, what I always like to say, stay inspired. Welcome to Artist Talk. Share this stream. Share this stream. Share my stream and my links with everyone you know, so that today we can make a positive difference in someone's life. Please subscribe, smash that bell notification, and thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. If you like my content, again, please follow my social links in the description box below. And now, what can I say? I'm a gearhead. This stream is dedicated to all my PayPal donors. A very big thank you goes out to ESP Mike. A big thank you goes to Design 39 Media. A big thank you also goes to Dimbola Blade Works from Victoria, Australia. And just a little backline, just a little backstory on my guest. Rich is a wonderful guitarist that plays in a tribute band dedicated to their musical heroes, Bon Jovi. All of Rich's links are in the description box below. Please check them out. And if anybody has any questions for myself or for my guest, Artist Talk Now has support line, or any questions from my guest can be asked right in the chat. And without further ado, it is my honor and my privilege to have on today Mr. Rich Antonelli. So everybody, come on, dreamers, join together and welcome Mr. Rich Antonelli. Hey, welcome to Artist Talk.
What's going on?
How are you, Rich? How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me on.
I appreciate your time. I thank you for being here. From the bottom of my heart, it's a real pleasure to be talking to you.
I'm excited about this. This is going to be pretty fun. So let's get right to it.
Sounds good to me. Fun. Let's start. Let's just kick right straight away. Bon Jovi. Tell me all about the history of Bon Jovi.
All right. So we actually talked a little about this before the show started. You asked me if I had a story as to how I get started with this, and it goes back to I was doing the original band thing. That's all I knew was original bands. That's all I did for years. I had one called Sky High that I did for since I was 19 years old, and probably back around 2000, I want to say 2004, 2000, around 2004, a friend of mine actually was our bass player at the time. He goes, "Hey, do you know any Bon Jovi songs?" And I'm like, "Oh, I kind of know, bits and pieces. I know the intro to Wanted Dead or Alive. A lot of guitar players know how to play that, but not really. I don't." And I'm like, "Why? Why are you asking this?" And I'm like, "Do you want to cover one of them, in our band?" And he's like, No. He goes, "My friend's Bon Jovi tribute band needed a guitar player real quick, like that. This was on a Monday, and they needed a guitar player on Friday for a gig. Something happened with their guitar player. The story I heard was that he went to jail. I really don't know exactly what happened. So he's like, yeah, they need one for Friday. Can you learn like 17, 18 songs by Friday?" And I was like, I guess so, So I kind of woodshedded all that night, the next day, and then went to a rehearsal with the band on Wednesday. Went really well. I had the songs down and played the show, and for years when I was doing the original thing, I was always the type of guy that I was like, I didn't like cover bands, and I didn't like tribute bands. I'm like, I want to do my own music and this and that. But once I played the show, I actually had a lot of fun doing it, and it kind of changed my whole perspective on the whole cover band and tribute band thing. So I continued with the original band, and I played a few more shows with this Bon Jovi tribute band. It's not the one that I'm in now. So once that ended, they got their guitar player. They had a guy waiting in the wings to take over for the guy that went to jail, but he hadn't learned the songs yet. So I had learned the songs in a matter of days, but they had already promised a gig to him. So what, it is what it is. So when I went back to my original band, I'm like, hey, I talked to the guys and said, hey, why don't we just do a Bon Jovi tribute just to make extra money, because original bands just don't make money. So we ended up doing that. We had and I don't want to, I never really called it a Bon Jovi tribute band. It was more of a cover band, because none of us, we weren't trying to look like them, and we were just playing in small bars in Rhode Island. We named the band Crush after one of their albums. So I was doing that for a while. We were still doing Sky High, doing the original things. And Sky High, we used to do shows with a lot of the 80s bands like Warrant, Slaughter, Firehouse, Dokken, you name it,
Wow.
Sebastian Bach. We played shows with a lot of those bands back then, Quiet Riot.
Yeah.
And so once we were doing Crush, our singer needed to miss a show. So we ended up, my keyboard player at the time was friends with a band called Jovi, which was another Bon Jovi tribute band up in Massachusetts area. So we ended up borrowing their singer, Joe, to play this gig with us. You know, we played the gig and went well. And then probably another 5-6 months later, myself and our keyboard player went to fill in for their band, Jovi. And then the rest from there is history. I ended up in the band Jovi, which is now Bon Jersey. And the reason for the name change is because once we started playing bigger and better venues. And then all of a sudden, probably after a year or so that I'd been in the band, been in Jovi, I received an overnighted letter from Los Angeles with a cease and desist saying, you can't use the name Jovi. You have to stop the band. You can't do this. You can't do that. You know, and it was actually from Bon Jovi's trademark attorneys. And now we're sitting here like, oh, what's and the reason that they gave us was because we were confusing people. That, you know, if we played a show, people would think it was actually Bon Jovi playing. I don't know anybody that's stupid, but you know, our singer sounds like John. He has the look and all that stuff. So I guess they were looking at that. And so we got a hold of John Bon Jovi's brother, Matt, and told him about the situation. And he told us, you know, the band knows nothing about this. The trademark attorneys trademarked their name years ago when Bon Jovi first started. So they had no idea this was going on. So the advice he gave us was, he said, you know, listen, it's just a name. Just change your name. Don't try to fight the trademark attorneys because you're going to lose. You know, they have a lot more money than you. So we're like, that's fine. So we Joe and I, our singer Joe and I, we both actually came up with Bon Jersey. So we told that to the attorneys, and they said, well, you can't use that either. And we're like, why not? They're like, it's too close to Bon Jovi. So I had an attorney friend of mine get in touch with that attorney and say, listen, Bon is a French word meaning good, and Jersey is a geographic location. You can't trademark that. So after going back and forth, they finally said, okay, you can use that name, but you cannot, you know, we had to sign a contract saying you cannot use the words Bon Jovi in anything. Like if we wanted to make a t-shirt that said Bon Jersey, Bon Jovi tribute, we couldn't have Bon Jovi anywhere in there. We had to change our website because the website address used to be Jovi Tribute. We had to change that. And we couldn't use any of their photos and any of our promotional items and all, which we never did anyway. But so after that, we became Bon Jersey, and I've been in this band for, I think this is 14 years now. Since that whole thing started, where I did a fill-in gig, you know, within a week for another tribute. So I've been doing it ever since and having a blast. That's the story.
That's wonderful. That's, you know, trademarks and copyrights, and I've gotten a lot of actually I've been told a lot of horror stories when it comes to that stuff. And it's I always admire artists, and I always admire bands and artists such as yourself that go out there, put it on the line, saying, hey, this is what we love. This is the band that we love. This is how we want to show our love and pay homage to one of the greatest bands in the world. And I think you really need to be a very unique and talented and gutsy individual, gutsy musician to be able to do that and pull it off.
Well, one of the things, you know, there are a lot of artists, like the real artists, like not really Bon Jovi, but other artists that don't like the bands that pay tribute to them. And we've actually had people come up to us, after shows saying, "Hey, you guys are great, but I was not really a fan of Bon Jovi. I just tagged along with my friend to the show, and now seeing you guys play their music, I'm going to go out and buy their greatest hit CD." So we're actually, tribute bands are actually promotion for the real band. And I don't know why more bands don't latch onto that. That the tribute bands aren't doing harm, unless they're really bad. But they're not doing harm to the band. They're actually trying to show fans that normally wouldn't go see the band, but whether it's because the concert tickets are too much money, or you can't afford to go. You try to go to a concert nowadays, it's $300 for a ticket, and you got to park, and you got souvenirs, and not a lot of people can do that. So we're one of the options where we try to do a show as close to actually seeing Bon Jovi as we can. But like, you can come see it. There's a lot of shows we do where there's the free admission, or there's a lot of shows where it's a $10 ticket. So most people can afford $10 to come see us. Yeah, it's not Bon Jovi, but you're saving a lot of money by coming to see us and still getting to hear the music that they made so famous.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. See, that's what that I think is the type of thinking that separates the honorable, serious, passionate artists from other individuals that are just in it for a quick buck.
Yeah, I mean, we've been at it for, like I said, 14, 15 years now. So
there you go.
We've been, we just like doing it, and we take pride, and we try to make it sound as close as Bon Jovi as we can. And it's just it's fun. We've played to crowds of up to 10,000 people. We played to crowds as small as 20 people. But we're really looking forward to this year. We have new management, booking agent, and we're hoping to do a lot more traveling coming up. So,
well, I really need to ask this: what is your favorite song, Bon Jovi song, to play?
It has to be "Living on a Prayer," with "It's My Life" being in second place, only because I get to use the talk box in both of those songs. And we could be having the worst show, but as soon as we go into "Living on a Prayer," everything changes. Like the crowd, like we've played shows where people just aren't paying attention to you. You're just background music. Stop playing "Living on a Prayer." Everybody knows that song. Even people that say they don't like Bon Jovi they know that song. They like it. They've sung it before. So as soon as we stop playing "Living on a Prayer," and then they hear the talk box, and then they're like, "Oh, they're actually doing the talk box too." And then by the time you get to the chorus, the band doesn't even have to sing because the people are singing louder than the PA system. It's crazy. It's being on the stage and seeing that and feeling that is, it's second to none.
Yes.
Especially, like I said, we played to like as many as 10,000. When you have 10,000 people, screaming and singing the songs where you don't even have to be on your mic singing because they're so loud. It's a great feeling. And it's the kind of thing we look forward to all the time.
Do you use a whole separate amp rig for your talk box?
No, I actually, when I first started doing it, I was using the Heil, HEIL talk box, which is, the pro one to use. But the problem I was having is I kept blowing fuses on the amp, because that one you have to run through another amp and then mic up that amp. So once I was doing that, I'm like, I can't keep switching fuses. And I was, during shows, I was blowing out. So now Rocktron has what they call the Banshee. And I think MXR makes one too, where there's an actual amp built into the talk box. It's a 5-watt amp built into it. So the sound's coming up through the tube now. You got the tube near the mic here like this, and you're picking up the sound with a microphone, just like a vocal mic.
Yes.
Whereas before, the sound was coming, you had another amp back there, and you had to go through the amp, like a 30-watt amp or a 25-watt amp, or even a 100-watt amp. And it was just more stuff to set up. It just became a hassle. So the Banshee I've been using for like 15, 20 years now. And, knock on wood, it's held up on the road, and I actually carry two with me, just in case one goes down. But any other guitar players out there looking for a talk box, try the Banshee. It's a lot of fun to play too.
So it's called BNG.
No, it's Rocktron's the company.
Oh,
And
okay.
then
Rocktron.
Banshee, it's Banshee. Banshee.
The Rocktron Banshee.
Yeah, and MXR makes one that's similar. I can't remember what theirs is called, but it's pretty much the same thing. But I've had no issues with the Rocktron, so I've stuck with that. And what happens is when you step on, the way I have it connected, I have my guitar going into the talk box, and then out of the talk box into my pedal board and my amp. So what happens is when you step on the talk box to turn it on, it bypasses the amp. It shuts the amp down. So the only sound that you're getting from your guitar is the talk box. You don't hear the amp anymore. Then when you shut it off, it shuts the talk box off, and you get your amp back.
So, especially with Bon Jovi, what is your amp of choice for live applications?
Well, for years, Richie Sambora used a Marshall DSL 100 JCM 2000 for years, and I actually have one. It's on a rack over there, but we're in the digital age now, so I've been using a Kemper profiling amp because the band recently has switched over to all in-ear systems, and we're running a lot of stuff direct. So we don't need 100-watt. I don't need a 100-watt amp behind me because I have my in-ears in and I can hear the whole band, no problem. And it also cuts down on stage volume like tremendously. So the only thing you're really hearing on stage now is our drum set. That's it. Everybody else is running directly into the PA. So it just cuts down on a lot of noise. It saves you hearing. Oh yeah, it's someone in the your chat that said the MXR talk box is the M222. That's right. Thank you for that, ESP Mike.
Yeah, ESP Mike. And speaking of my good folks there in the chat, I don't want to leave them out either. And I just want to say, hey, there's Cutter Savage. What's going on? Cutter is an amazing visionary musician.
Nice.
And if you have time after the show, I'd like to share with you a little bit about him. He's really,
sure.
he's got it right here.
Cool.
Right here. And Sean Zimmerman. Hey, Will Dunham, Cutter Savage, Sonic Sonia in the house. Good morning, Sonic Sonia. That is very true. There's ESP Mike. Hey, dudes. What's up?
It looks like Sonia had a question here.
Do you travel a lot to perform?
Yeah, I'm in Rhode Island. The whole band is based in New England. So, for the most part, we stay around New England, but we have, we've gone down to Biloxi, Mississippi. We played the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino down there. Played New York a lot, New Jersey. But now we're hoping to be flying all over the country coming up this year, next year, which, like I said, we just got a new management and booking agent that we're working with now. So we're hoping to get that ball rolling a lot more and getting out across the country.
That's really cool. Yeah, I guess the all the air travel.
Yeah, that's it's tough too because there's a lot of venues that have requested us, but it all comes down to logistics and it comes whether you want to say it or not, it comes down to money. We all have regular jobs, so we can't just take off and spend our own money to fly to these places. If the venue can get us on planes and give us the hotels and stuff like that, and it works out, we'll go anywhere, including overseas. So it just has to work out where it makes sense for us to get time out of work to be able to do this. And we're heading in that directions too. So hopefully it keeps going.
Well, I was watching a performance of kind of a compilation performance that was a rehearsal, and I was amazed. I was watching and I was listening and watching and listening, and when Bon Jovi, well, every song that Bon Jovi played was just beautiful, just well thought out, cared for with love and honor, and I thought it was really awesome.
Well, thank you. It was a rehearsal that you saw.
Yes,
I
it
like
was
to
a
know.
rehearsal on YouTube.
I'd like to see that because I don't remember any rehearsals being filmed.
Sure, I could
Yeah,
send a link
send it
to you.
later. I'd be curious to see that.
It was interesting. It was
Yeah, we never
interesting.
know. Like we never know. Everybody's at a show with their camera, their phones, and they'll post anything. So I'm sure there's many videos of us that I have not seen. And for the most part, it's tough because those the iPhone cameras and stuff, they look good, but when you're at a show, the sound, they're not made for loud music going into that little mic on the phone. So you gotta. We always tell people, if you want to really hear what we sound like, come to a show. Don't watch those videos because unless they're professionally done, because you're not getting the true sound of the band coming through a little iPhone microphone.
You're
You know,
right.
the bass ends up farting out, and it just, I kind of watch it and I cringe sometimes because it's like that does not sound like us. But it is what it is.
Well, I should rephrase. I need to correct myself. It was a sound check.
All right, all right. I'm trying to think. The one sound check that I know of was, I want to say it was at I don't even think the venue's there anymore. It was like from far away, the camera. You see the whole stage?
Um, More or less.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I know which one you're talking about.
Well, if you would like, I'll still send the
Sure.
link to you,
Sure, yeah, definitely.
if that's okay.
Yep.
Um, let's see. Just I don't want to. I care for everybody in the chat because I appreciate Sonic Sonia, hey Sean Zimmerman. I appreciate everybody giving me their time and coming to hang with you
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate it too because this is a tough time. 11 o'clock. I'm in East Coast. And you got up early, Pacific time, so it's kind of getting close to the middle of my day, but and it's your day's just starting. So I appreciate those that have come on to hang out with us.
I think I'm gonna start. Well, it just all depends, but I think future artist talk episodes are going to. I like starting out my day like this.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was do I my channel, my YouTube channel. I've done live streams and stuff, and I always. And one of the reasons why we're doing this now is because of me. This is the best time for me to get on here. Later in the day and at night, I'm just not available. But I'm sure you'd probably get more viewers if it was like after 5 p.m. People are home from work, but everybody, although there's probably a lot of people at work right now, on their work computers slipping onto YouTube to watch this.
Well, that's a great idea. There is a second show that I would like to create. It's called Pedal Talk. And
cool. Yep.
basically it's just all about pedals.
I used to have that pedal.
This one?
Yeah, I had that. And I don't really have any more pedals. I once I started playing the Kemper, I got rid of all my pedals because the Kemper has all the effects I need built into it.
Well,
And
sure.
it's just less for me to carry, to a gig. What I like about the Kemper is that when we do have to get on a plane, I take two of my guitars in my I have a mono double case bag, if you want to call it padded bag. Carry that on the plane, and I have my Kemper with the remote in the little Kemper bag, and I carry that on. And then I just check my suitcase. So I'm able to get my guitars and my tone that I need for the show rather than using like a backline amp that they supply at the venue. That's the one of the good things about going digital is that you can carry this stuff on a plane and not have to worry about weight issues or checking you don't want to be flying around the country with your amp underneath the plane because you don't know what those guys are doing with those things. I've seen guys taking guitars and throwing them guitar cases, throwing them under the they're loading up all the luggage and you say, oh, there's a guitar right there, and they just take it and throw it. So I try to avoid that. I always try to carry this stuff on. And by law, they're supposed to let you take the guitars on the plane if there's room.
Well, have you ever seen that backstage rig tour of Richie Sambora's where he had like 200 and something guitars?
Yeah. That's what happens when you have money. He just shows up to the show. He's got people working. The band has people working that takes care of all that stuff and loads up the trucks and gets it to where it needs to be.
That's
as us, we have to carry our own stuff. That's just the way it is.
When I saw that, I was like, wow.
Yeah, he brings guitars. He brings guitars out on tour that are some of them are worth. I know one time he had one I think it's worth like $100,000 for one guitar. It was like a vintage Les Paul that he took on tour. I'm like, that would not leave my house if I had that guitar. That would be locked away be locked away in a case. Like I told you that EVH Music Man back there was my first real guitar I bought in 1991, and I played it for 20 years. And every time I went to a show with that guitar, I always had it near me because I was afraid somebody was going to steal it or something would happen to it. And I ended up beating up that guitar like crazy. So now it just sits on the wall. It's retired.
Well, I don't know how. I mean, you would have to get insurance, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you probably should, but I stick to now when we travel. I bring my main guitar and another one. Plus, I have a double neck Ovation acoustic, for Wanted Dead or Alive that I take with us. But most of my guitars I try to keep to be not really expensive because I want to use them. Maybe someday if I retire, I'll get a couple of really expensive guitars that I just play in the house. But for now, it's just if one of my guitars that I bring to a gig gets lost or something, yeah, it suck, but it could be replaced, at minimal cost. So
it's okay.
I know guys that bring out these guitars that are just worth a lot of money in amps and stuff, and I'm like, oh man, I can't do it. As great as the guitar might sound or feel or play or look, I'd be too worried all the time if something would happen to it. It's just the way I am.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that, and let me tell you, when you perform, and the performance I saw, kind of a performance clip of Bon Jovi that I saw, your guitar tone just resonated with me. It's pure. it's very transcendent, it's very articulate, and I never thought, I'll be honest with you, I never thought that a modeler could sound like 12 Marshall stacks.
Yeah, I mean, maybe 10 years ago that was the case, but nowadays with the Kemper and the Line 6 Helix, and I have a Headrush gig board here. They have the pedal board, the fractal stuff, the X effects. It's so far advanced now that you the common person can't tell the difference, and that's all that matters. I fought myself for years on this. I'm like, I it doesn't sound. I need it to sound good on stage for what I'm hearing, and I didn't really think about the people out there, what it was sounding like for them. When it comes down to it, the people out there really don't care if you're playing a $10 amp or a $50,000 amp.
You're
As
right.
long as if it sounds good, like for us, if it sounds close to Bon Jovi, that's all they care about. So it took me a while to get over that. So now it's like it's got to sound good out there before it sounds good back here to me. That's really all that matters. They're paying to hear the band, and they're paying to experience kind of what it likes to be at a Bon Jovi show. So it has to sound good out there.
I I'm I can't agree more. I saw. Well, I'm not gonna really say name, but there was a band, a tribute band that I saw, and uh, I just didn't feel that the message. I just didn't feel the music. But with you guys with Bon Jersey, I feel every note, I feel every harmonic, I feel everything that you guys are doing. You guys are so honest and true and passionate about what you believe in, about what you're doing. It just resonates with me, really, to be honest with you.
Well, that's good. That's what we want to hear. Um, there are a lot of tribute bands out there. Like I said, we've been at it for a long time, and we've seen some bands come and go, and some bands, come in the later years, and yeah, I mean, it's all good. I'm friends with a lot of guys in the other Bon Jovi tribute
Yeah,
bands, and
yeah,
um, just all the other tribute bands that aren't Bon. Like, I have a few good friends in an AC/DC tribute band, Journey tribute band. So I don't see anything wrong with tribute bands. There are people that have this stigma against tribute bands, but I just think it's a good way to promote the band's music,
yes,
to people that would normally wouldn't listen to it.
yes. Well, I think it's great to be able to do that, um, in a way that people could actually feel and receive that energy from stage and push that energy back at you, at everybody on the stage. It's a very sacred thing, see, because I know for myself, going to concerts, it's important to me
Hmm.
to be able to feel that energy coming off the stage and transfer that energy back to the stage again. It's a release, and it's very, very important,
I agree, definitely.
you know. So a question, Rich, that I always ask my guests:
Okay.
what is your favorite piece of gear and why?
That is a very tough question. I don't know if that I have a favorite piece of gear. Probably right now is my main gigging guitar, which is, let's see, you can see behind me. Get my finger in right there. That's
Yes.
24 fret Fender FM. I think it's the FM series. And I got that. I used to go on a lot of the guitar forums online, and a guy was selling that. Guy from Puerto Rico was selling that guitar. He wanted $400 shipped for the guitar. I guess his father had some medical issues, and he needed money fast because otherwise he wouldn't have been selling it that cheap. But I bought that guitar, and I've been using. It's been my main guitar. I used to use the. Let me get out of the way here. We were talking about this earlier. I have a Sambora ESP
Yes.
right there, so I was using that for a while, but that other one it just feels and sounds better. So I've been using that, and then I have a new guitar coming in tomorrow, thanks to NAM. And I didn't go to NAM this year. I went a couple of years ago, and I have to go again next year. But the new Epiphone guitars that just came out for 2020, the Inspired by Gibson collection. I've owned a few Les Pauls and always ended up selling them, but I think it was more of the neck profile on those. I couldn't jive with them. But the newer Epiphone guitars are so affordably priced, and they made, they upped their specs on them to where they look like a Gibson, they feel like a Gibson, they sound like a Gibson, and they made the necks a little bit slimmer on some of them. So I have a worn purple one coming tomorrow. And anybody watching this, just so you know, I got it from Musician's Friend. And if you call there, I mean, the guitar I bought, I think they're like $449, brand new, $449. Even at that price, take a chance on it. And I called them and I said, "Hey, can you do anything else on this guitar?" And they knocked the price down to $372 for me. Then I had another $43 in, I guess they call it their points, their rewards. So for just a little over $300, I got a new Epiphone Les Paul coming tomorrow, brand new for 2020. So I'll probably do an unboxing video on my channel and initial thoughts and all that stuff. So if anybody subscribed to the channel, check that out when it comes out. Really looking forward to. I haven't been this excited about a guitar in a while, and I've never played the thing, so
That's cool.
hopefully I like it. And if
Well,
I do, I'm probably going to buy a few more eventually.
the all of Rich's social links are down in the description box below, folks. Check them out. I do this so that my guests can, number one, know that somebody actually cares about what they're doing, because it's important. It's important. And please check out all of my guests, all of Rich's links in the description box below.
Yes, please do that.
Please.
I'm trying. We were talking earlier. Will and I were talking about and what was that question you asked me about with the manufacturers, and you had asked what I think was important.
Yeah, how to attract attention.
And my answer was, 15 years ago it was talent, and now it's how many followers or subscribers you have. So I'm kind of behind the wave on I've had the YouTube channel for a while, and I never really paid attention to it, but now I'm trying to build that up. So you're going to see a lot more stuff on there. So go and subscribe to it. I see the question. Well, not really a question. I need a Kramer Jersey Star. If anybody wants to send me one, I will gladly take it.
Me too, actually. I love that.
I've played one. I never really owned one. I played one, and it was great, but it's just not in the funds right now. And Richie doesn't really play that anymore. With Bon Jersey, we're more. I don't want to say we're the modern Bon Jersey version. because Richie's not in the band anymore. But we fall into the like Keep the Faith to Lost Highway range of the band as far as the albums go, as far as the look and how we want to sound. But we do play everything from the first album. We don't really play much of the last album or two, but we have. But people want to hear the hits, so that's where we're more geared towards that spectrum of Bon Jovi.
Well, the I'm glad that Cutter brought up that Jersey Star. When I first saw that the new Kramer line,
Yeah.
and I was checking out the Jersey Star, of course, and my eyes just went right to it. I was just like, oh.
Well, if like I said, if anybody from Kramer is actually watching this, I'd be happy to play your guitars doing the Bon Jovi tribute thing. So get in touch.
There's some real good guitars. Have you seen the new Kramer line on the Kramer website?
Yeah, I was going crazy. I had a bunch of friends out at NAMM. And like I said, I wasn't able to go this year. I have a bunch of friends, and they're sending me pictures, and it was driving me crazy because I want to be out there, but I plan on going there. I'm going to take this. My whole plan for this year, 2020, is to build up my YouTube channel.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Building and building and building and getting my subscribers up and putting out quality videos, and then hitting NAMM again next year. Because the last time I went, it was 2 or 3 years ago. I had my podcast going, which I haven't officially shut that down, but it's been on hiatus for like over a year now. And I'm not sure why. I think I just ran out of time, and it was doing really well. It's called the Rocker Dad Podcast. Check it out. It's still up on Apple. I had a bunch of guests on there, like Joel Hoekstra from Whitesnake and Richie Castellano from Blue Oyster Cult. The guys from Lifehouse are on there. Michael Britt from Lone Star. I did interviews, and there's some on my channel. There's some videos also from the actual podcast, face to face, just like this, like where Will and I are doing now. Brittany Denaro from Vixen, just to name a few. But so when I was out there at NAMM 2 or 3 years ago, I was really promoting that. I actually got Phil X to do like sort of a small commercial for me. I think it's on my channel. But this time I really want to gear towards the YouTube channel, because that seems to be where everything is headed, with YouTube, videos and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's my main concern this year. That and hopefully the band is traveling all over the country. And that's another thing I want to do too, is start doing, not really running diaries, but when the band has a gig, I'd like to do some like footage, like getting to the gig and setting up and filming all that and putting it out so people can see how we do it, how we set up for a gig and how the experiences that we go through. I see Cutter. Oh, cool. He's listened to my podcast. Thank you. That's awesome. I have people keep saying you need to do that more, but the hardest thing for that podcast was getting the guests. And Will, you probably know, trying to get guests for your show is not easy. So I'll probably stoke that thing back up again, the Rocker Dad podcast. But like I said, you can go back and listen to. There's a bunch of different episodes still available here and there. And I know it's on iTunes. It's probably on like Stitcher and all the other podcast platforms.
But yes, I have found that when I first conceptualized my show, I was thinking, the first question I had was, how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
How am I going to do this? The second question I had was, wait a minute, I can do it. I can do it. There's a saying that, if you don't mind me sharing, there's a saying that my stepdad told me before he passed on. His name is Warren Turner, and he told me that whatever the mind of William Starr Dunham, that's me, can believe and conceive, William Starr Dunham can achieve. So I say to you, whatever the mind of Rich Antonelli can believe and conceive, Rich Antonelli can achieve.
That reminds me of when I was going back to earlier when I was talking about my original band Sky High. By
Yeah,
the way, all the old songs are available on my website. Some of them are free downloads if you want to check them out. But we have a song called "Dream," and the chorus is, "If you can dream, who says that you can't live it?" So kind of fits what you just said.
that's beautiful. Thank you, sir. It means a great deal. The what was the thing that inspired you to want to pick up a guitar in the first place?
Well, here's another funny story. I actually started on drums. Probably when I was 10, 11, 12, I took lessons. You know, I was getting okay. I was actually took lessons on it, and then all of a sudden I discovered Van Halen. And as soon as I heard, and it really wasn't old Van Halen, it wasn't David Lee Roth Van Halen, it was Sammy Hagar Van Halen.
Okay.
But there was just something about their songs and the way, you know, I never heard of Eddie Van Halen before. 12 years old. My parents weren't listening to stuff like that, so I never heard it. But then when I came upon it, it just blew me away, and I was like, you know what, the hell with these drums. I want to play guitar because Eddie just looks so cool, and with the sound, and so I started going back to the earlier stuff, Eruption and all that stuff, and it just kind of blew my mind. And I said, yeah, I don't want to play drums anymore. So I actually got a really cheap, I think it was a CORT guitar. I don't know if they used to sell them at Sears. I got one of those guitars and I started teaching myself. Now, when I was playing drums, I played in a garage band, like we all have with friends, and we used to play, Dio and Dokken and Whitesnake, and we had a pretty decent guitar player, even that young. And when I used to play drums, I used to just watch his hands while I was playing. While I was sitting there playing the drums, I'd watch where his fingers went. And so when I picked up a guitar, I kind of knew what this is how you're supposed to put your fingers on here. And but even before the guitar, because I was listening to Van Hagar, they had a lot of keyboard songs. I actually taught myself piano first, and then I went to the guitar. But so the CORT guitar, I spray painted with stripes. I think it was like blue and silver. I didn't want to match Eddie's actual red, white, and black, so I did, and it was terrible. It came out terrible. But I think the very first song I taught myself, and pretty much anybody on the planet can just, not really the whole song, but just the opening riff. Anybody on the planet that has never played guitar can play this, is Alone Again by Dokken. The intro, you're basically just fretting one note and then just hitting open strings. And when I first did that and I heard that, hey, that actually sounds exactly like the song, it got me excited. I was like, wow, I can play guitar. Stupid me. I think I can play anything now. So I started watching a lot of videos. We didn't have YouTube back then, so I was watching Van Halen concerts and trying to figure out what's he doing there. So that's how that whole thing started. And my one regret is that I wish I had taken lessons on piano and guitar when I was younger. I'm totally self-taught, and I know I don't play correctly. I don't play technically correct. And people say, well, as long as you can make music, that's what it is. But I just wish I was technically better than I am. I can do a lot of faking to make it sound the way it needs to sound without actually playing things the right way. So that's how I started. I was a drummer, saw Van Halen, and then I wasn't a drummer anymore. Went to guitar, and I've been playing for 31 years now, guitar. So now you can probably guess how old I am.
Well, that's one thing, music and what we love and what sounds good. What our hearts, our souls perceive as what sounds good. You know
Yeah.
what? There's nothing better than that. Really. I I know that personally speaking with the when I hear, well, Bon Jovi, when Bon Jovi breaks into It's My Life, I had just like, that just brought a smile to my face, because I remember watching that video for the very first time when Bon Jovi released that as a single,
Yep.
and the video was released. That just that song really captivated me for some reason.
Well, they kind of reinvented themselves with that album with Crush. They almost broke up right before Keep the Faith. They almost broke up, and then they did Keep the Faith. It was different, and then they did These Days, which was really for them. It was really a melancholy album. It wasn't upbeat or anything. Really good songs on it, but they took a few years off and they came back with Crush, and the first thing you heard was that talk box, that the intro, and it was like, what the hell is that? And it's funny when we play that song live. There'll be, like I said earlier with Living on a Prayer. There might be people, they're not really paying attention to you, and they're talking to their friends out in the crowd, and you're like, these people do they even like what we're doing here? Then you hear that bow bow, that opening, and all the heads turn around. They're like, oh, geez, what was that? It sounds just like the album. And then they, the whole talk box thing, like, going back to what I said earlier, the talk box is people. I've had people come up to the show, up to me after a show and say, "Wow, you actually use the talk box?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, if we're a tribute, we have to do what they do." So the talk box is not a question of whether we should use it or not. And I've seen other Bon Jovi tributes play those songs without a talk box, where they use like a wah pedal. They still sound good, but it's not the same. If you're going to do a tribute to Bon Jovi or a tribute to Peter Frampton, you need that talk box. It's got to be there, and it turns a lot of heads.
Yes, the talk box is essential.
And one
Yeah,
thing about the talk box, before I forget,
yeah,
anybody that gets a talk box, please make sure you get the correct size tube, because I've seen guys in other bands using the talk box, and they have this tube that's like way too wide.
yeah.
So they're trying to put this giant tube in their mouth, and they can't control the sound. And I'm like, you just get the right size tube, because it'll make it so much easier and it'll sound so much better.
So the talk box has a driver, correct?
Yeah, the Banshee one does. The original, the heel that I started out with doesn't. That's why you have to hook it up to a separate amp to drive it. But the Banshee, I'm wondering if I have my talk. I don't think I have my talk box over here. I'd show it to you, but yeah, it has its own little amp built inside of it, a 5-watt thing, and you just stick the tube. If you take the tube out and you could actually I think Rocktron kind of says this, where if you're at a gig and your amp goes down, you could actually use the Banshee to get through the rest of the gig, because it has the amp built into it. I mean, it's not going to sound great. You'd have to run your pedals through it to get reverb and all that stuff, but you could actually get through the rest of the gig using that. Just go direct out of it. But yeah, if you take the tube out and play, you could actually hear it. Sounds like you remember those little Marshall tiny amplifiers, those little ones,
Yeah.
or even a little gorilla. Kind of sounds like that without the tube in it.
Wow.
Not great, but you know it's usable in a pinch. But once you put the tube in, you got your talk box.
You know, that's that I remember the very first time. Do you remember the company Zeus?
Yep.
The Zeus Mini app?
Yes.
I had that at one time or another, and it was it was pretty interesting how the whole thing integrated, you know.
Actually, I think I have. If you want to hold on a second, I think I have my talk box back here. If you want to see like what it looks like
Sure, no
and
problem.
hold on
No
one sec.
problem. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I had my case, but I do. So this is the Rocktron Banshee.
That's it.
So obviously the tube goes in here, goes up to the mic, and then the sound comes out of there, and then you amplify it through the microphone. And it's got gain, tone, and output on it. And like I said, when you engage it, it bypasses your amp, and all you hear is a talk box. You shut it back off, your amp comes back on. But this thing is I think they're like $100 and something new, but they're great. Great piece of gear.
Yep, Rocktron. They nailed it with that one.
Definitely, yeah. It's done me well for 20 years now.
So you have your Rocktron Banshee, you run it into your pedal board, then you run your pedal board into your Kemper?
No, well, I don't really have a pedal board per se. It's the Kemper has they call it the remote. It looks like a pedal board. It's got all the buttons on it. So I run my guitar into the talk box. Then I run out of this into the front of the Kemper, into the guitar input on the Kemper. And then the Kemper, the remote, I think it's a Cat 5 cable, just like a regular Ethernet cable that runs out of the back of the Kemper into the remote. And you program all your sounds like that from the Kemper. So all my effects that I'm using nowadays, I don't bring any pedals other than this Banshee. The Kemper has reverbs, delays, choruses, any effect you can think of is built into the Kemper, and you can manipulate anything on it. I mean, I can actually match pretty much any delay pedal, any reverb pedal with the Kemper itself, as far as sound goes. So it just makes it a lot easier. All I do is the remote's probably about this big.
Mm-hmm.
Put that down in front of me. I got the talk box next to it, and I have unlimited sounds that I need for a gig. And I'm not currently, because we're using in-ears, there's no speaker cabinet. I'm just running direct out of the Kemper right to the sound guy. And that comes out front, and that's it. So just the audience is hearing that out front, and I got it all in my ears.
So is that the Kemper stage?
No, this is the third Kemper I've owned. When they first came out, I had the unpowered head, sold that, went back to an amp. Then I got a powered head, used that for a couple of years, went back to, I'm a guitar player, I'm always changing stuff. Sold that, went back to the amp again. And then when the stage came out, I was seriously going to get it. I came really close to getting it, but I ended up buying another powered head. Just because it's more flexible, and like the stage, you need something to drive. If you're going to use a cabinet with it, you need some kind of power amp with it. So I ended up getting the power head again because it has I think it's a 600 watt amp built into it. So if I want to, say I want to grab and go to a friend's house just to jam, I can grab the Kemper head plus a little 112 or a 212 cabinet, and that can power the cabinet. With the stage, you would need some sort of powered monitor or another a power amp to run a regular guitar cabinet through.
Power switch.
Yeah. So, and I know when the stage first came out, they had all kinds of issues with it. There were a lot of quality control issues. I know they rectified that now, so people aren't really having problems. But when they first came out, there was some problems. So I'm kind of glad I went with the tried and true power head. And plus, it fits. You got the Kemper bag for it. It fits in the bag with the remote right on top of it. Like I said, taking on a plane, I'm good to go.
Yes. Well, that Sonic Sonia talks about mentioned
216. Oh yeah,
that
there's a new version of the Banshee, which is the Banshee 2, which is more expensive. I use the Banshee 1. The only difference with the Banshee 2, I believe, is that you can have the talk box alone, the talk box with your amp at the same time, where it doesn't bypass the amp. So you have the talk box coming out of the mic, and then you have your amp still coming out of the PA too, or both together, or just your amp. There's a way around it with this version, which I used to do before we got another guitar player. I used to play the talk box and my amp at the same time. I have a Whirlwind ABY pedal that I used to run in front of that, so I could either just have the talk box by itself, my amp by itself, or both of them together, and not have to spend the extra $100 or whatever it is for the version 2 of the talk box.
well,
It looks like she has another question. Oh, here it is. Yeah. Do I keep a laptop or something connected to the Kemper? No. Song changes. I'm basically on the same. How do I explain this? So the Kemper has what they call the performance. There's a tuner, browse mode, performance mode, and profile mode. Profile mode is to profile your amps to make your sounds.
yes.
Browse mode, you're just going through all the profiles that you have stored in the Kemper. And performance mode is what you use live. So on the remote itself, hang on one second. This could be a lot easier if I show you this.
That's quite all right. Don't forget, folks.
So this is the Kemper remote.
Yes.
So when you're in performance mode, I'm trying to be able to see this. You have your 5. Trying to get this in front of the camera. Your 5 switches here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So basically, how I have it set up is number 1 is my clean channel, my clean sound. Number 2 is just like a little gain. Number 3 is like an AC/DC type crunch. Number 4 and 5 are like my high gain stuff. So when I press on any one of those, it switches to that sound depending on what I need in the song. Then up here, these buttons are for individual effects that I can turn on and off, and they can be different for each one of these 5 different sounds that I have. So I'll have like a phaser, a flanger, an overdrive, like an octave pedal here. It's got a tuner. You hit that, and it comes up on the display. A tuner. It's got a looper built into it. And then up and down buttons to get between performances. So it's not a matter of changing songs with a laptop. It's just I basically I stay in this performance the whole show. I have my 5 main sounds, and I'll just switch back and forth. Like a song like "I'll Be There for You" starts off with a clean sound.
Yes.
I'll be on number 1, and then once the chorus kicks in, I'll hit number 3, and I got my distortion. And then for leads, when you hit each one of those 5 buttons has a secondary not really a profile, but they call it morphing, where I'll be on, say, number 4, my heavy rhythm. If I step on that pedal again, I can set it to make that go louder. Like if I'm doing a solo, a lot of times the sound guy is not paying attention and won't boost your solos. So I can give myself a volume boost by hitting that button again, and it'll add more delay into my sound. And when you're done with the solo, you hit it, and it ramps back down to the original rhythm volume. It's actually, these came from Germany. They're unbelievably smart with this stuff. So I don't know how they do it. I have no idea how they did this, but It's probably the best, to me. It's the best sounding, and I don't really want to call it a modeler. Like when I think modeler, I think the Helix, I think the head rush stuff, the fractal stuff. This is more like a profile is more like a snapshot of an actual amp, because you're actually using the real amp to make it. We just did my other guitar player on Sunday. We just profile. He got a Friedman BE 100. He brought it over. He just got it, and we profiled that, and now that's what I'm going to be using next week at our gig. It came out really, really well.
If the companies that you use now, are there any companies that you wanted to say hi to and give a shout out to?
Well, number one is Line 6. They were one of the best companies out there as far as customer service that I've ever dealt with. I don't know who's watching, like Frank. He was such a nice guy, great to me, helped me out big time the last couple of years. When I went to NAMM, he was kind enough to get me the pass for that and got to hang out with all those guys. But yeah, Line 6, and I still use the Helix Native when I record on my computer. Line 6, and also Kemper. Kemper has been really good too, to me. And my other buddy and I, if anybody does have a Kemper, we do sell profiles. The website is it's amaudioprofiles.com. The letter A, letter M, audioprofiles.com. We have all kinds of profiles, from the EVH 5153s, the Friedmans, Fenders, Bad Cats, Bogner. We have a whole bunch of stuff, so check that out if you're looking for, some kind of new profiles to test.
What about, if you could have, what would be your dream guitar sponsorship, Rich?
Ooh. Guitar or like equipment related, or just like the guitar?
Guitar.
Guitar, probably. I would, as you can see behind me, there's Fenders back there.
Oh yeah.
So I would probably say Fender, but like I said earlier, unless you have a gazillion subscribers and followers and all that, you can't even talk to them or any of these companies. After that would probably be I've always liked the Music Man guitars too, Ernie Ball. I'm really not that picky as far as guitars go. I don't care what they look like, as long as they feel right to me and sound okay. I'll play it. I'm not tied down to one brand, so to speak.
What about effect pedals, or?
Well, because I'm using I like the Kemper. I like to work with Kemper. They were supposed to they were considering our AM audio profiles to be included in an upcoming. This was like last year. Every now and then they put out a rig pack, like a free rig pack from other profile makers, and they were considering us. I had to send all our profiles into them. Then I never heard anything back. But yeah, Kemper would be good. Who else? I know there's a new company that everybody was going crazy over at NAMM this year. People are already putting deposits down in this thing, and it's not going to be ready until September. I believe it's from Neural, the Quad Cortex.
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean it's what they're doing is, if they get it right, it's going to be unbelievable. But I haven't really heard a demo from that yet that makes me sit up and say, whoa, I got to have that. I'm gonna wait until they get all the bugs ironed out and all that stuff before I even consider. I did contact them, and they were one of the companies that said, oh, you need 25,000 or more subscribers and this and that. And I said, that's coming. Yeah. I'm the type of person that I don't stop. I don't give up. So I'll bug somebody until they finally say, I'm tired of him bugging me, and they just say yes. So I don't back down.
Well, as a matter of fact, today, absolutely. As a matter of fact, today, I'm going to make up my list, my wish lists, and there's one company that, well, three companies that I absolutely adore. And I always say this in every telecast, not to cut my gas off or anything, but I just have to say, Rock and Roll Relics. I love Rock and Roll Relic guitars.
Yeah, I remember seeing them at NAMM a couple of years ago.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah,
Just
pretty expensive too.
the owner, Billy Rowe, is one of the nicest, greatest, sweetest guys you could ever meet. And I'm a big Rock and Roll Relic supporter. Um, I don't have any of the guitars.
Yeah, I remember they weren't cheap. They were not cheap. But they're great looking guitars. I think I played one of them at NAMM 2 or 3 years ago, and I had to stop because, the funny thing, when I went to NAMM, that was my first NAMM, and it was in my bucket list, and I got to go, and I actually, funny story with that is, I was supposed to go with a friend, and something happened. We booked a hotel and all this stuff. We had a really nice hotel room that we were going to split, so the cost wasn't going to be that bad. He ended up not being able to go. I couldn't find anybody else to go with me. And then rather than cancel the trip, I said, you know what? I'm just going alone. So I flew from Rhode Island, and I went alone, and I stayed in this super high end hotel by myself. I had to pay the whole thing, but I'm like, I'm not staying home. I said, I'm going to NAMM. And now that I've been to NAMM, I know what to do, what not to do. And when I went that last time, I really didn't play anything. I just walked around and looked and tried to learn about it. And I tried not to play because I know if I had played a lot of these guitars and stuff, I would have been, really wanting them, and I would have made big mistakes and spent a lot of money. So
Yes.
I kind of stayed away from the guitars. But next time I go, now that I know, what to do and what not to do, I'm going to be playing everything under the sun, and just trying to, chat up all the guitar makers, and try to get them over to my, to my channel and check things out.
I actually had an opportunity to go this year.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I could have gone, but it just, I had already taken a bunch of other trips this year, and I'm like, I can't go again. It was just wasn't in the budget. But next year, definitely.
well, I hope I go. I hope I get invited back next year. I I an emergency, family emergency came up, and I just couldn't go.
Uh,
Um, but I'm hoping that next year I can, because I I love talking to people. I love listening. I love watching.
yeah, yeah. I made a couple of good contacts when I was there, and I ran into a bunch of guys I know. So it was well worth the trip. And I keep saying definitely going next year. I don't care what I have to do.
Well, Cutter, subscribe to your channel.
Thank you very much. I noticed a few of your viewers subscribe, so much appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. That's awesome. Show your support. Show your love. Rich is a real good guy, and he's trying to do a real hard thing, and I support him and Bon Jersey and everything that Rich Antonelli needs to do. I I I I really admire you, Rich. I admire
Thank
your
you.
talent. I admire your courage. I admire your heart, your soul you have for what you're doing. and it's just so crucial. Yeah, if um, many times that I've just seen instances to where somebody was performing and they weren't putting their heart and soul into it. They were just going through the motions.
Yep.
I could see that. I'm like going, you know, kind of made me feel bad because I grew up in the whole Van Halen era.
Oh yeah.
I grew up
The
at
big show. The big shows.
I grew up in the Pasadena area, the actual hometown,
Oh,
Van
Van Halen.
Halen
Yep.
hometown.
Yep.
And I was part of that whole scene, the whole backyard parties, the whole beginning, the whole thing, the whole beginning of the dynasty, of the legacy.
Yep.
And from everything from Eddie using a power attenuator to crank his power amp tubes down.
The Variac.
Yep, the
Yep.
Variac.
Don't do this at home. I've heard all the stories of him blowing the amps out and blowing out the electric in the building and doing that, but leave it to him to come up with that.
It's I know I that's where I learned. That's where I got my schooling, was in the backyard parties in Pasadena and the Starwood, Wilford and Russ Miller's Country Club. Um, I've never had the opportunity to see Bon Jovi live.
Wow. I think I've seen them 5 or 6 times. I'm kind of weird because I generally don't like to go see bands. Only because I get irritated and aggravated because I want to be up there playing.
Yes.
Especially Bon Jovi. I know how to play all the songs. And when I was with Sky High, I think I mentioned that we played with Warrant and a lot of those 80s bands. Got a little friendly with Warrant, really nice guys. And Poison used to do these tours in the summertime, Rock Never Stops tour. It would be Poison, and every year they'd have 2 or 3 other 80s bands. A lot of times it was Warrant. So I was able to go to a lot of those shows, and Warrant would, get me backstage, and I get to watch their set, from the stage, where the guitar techs would stand. You look out and there's 15,000 people, and it just, I was so tempted, and their backup guitars were right there. The amps were there and the guitars. I was so tempted to just grab one of the guitars, plug it in, and run out there. Playing, while they're playing like Uncle Tom's Cabin, because I knew how to play the song. So I guess when I go to a show, I get antsy because I'd rather be up on the stage playing, and I don't enjoy myself as much as the average concert goer would. It's just the way I've always been. It's kind of weird, but I don't go to many shows, and nowadays it's just too expensive to go to shows.
Say, Rich, have you ever met Six String Brian before?
I don't think so.
Well, Six String Brian's a real good guy. And Brian, say hi to Rich Antonelli.
What's up, Brian?
There's some real good people that come in this chat, and me personally, as a creator, I thank everyone every week. The good folks in the chat are so devoted and so honorable. I have a good chat.
Well, that's good because like you said, you're starting off and you got some good people to get you going. And just got to build it from there.
So if you had your if you I agree totally. Thank you. If you had your Rich, if you had your option, what would be your absolute pinnacle dream rig?
If money was not an object,
Yes.
probably, and I've already owned the Friedman BE 100 amp, probably the deluxe this time. I already owned the other version, then I sold it. That with the matching Friedman cab. Um, that's if I wasn't running in-ears. If I'm running in-ears, to me, that's a waste to have that big amp behind you blaring when
Yes.
if you're not really hearing it. Um, and then like a vintage Strat and a vintage Les Paul, like a 59 Les Paul or um, 60 Strat maybe with pickups upgraded to what the type of music that I play. And then also, um, as far as pedals go, I'd probably I used to own the Helix. I'd probably go back to the Helix for effects because that board is just so versatile. Um, you know, amp modeling aside, the effects are great in it. The inputs and outputs and everything that you can do with that board is just you can do anything basically with that. So to make things easier, I'd probably have a Helix in front of me for my effects only, and then the Helix would serve as my backup too. If the amp went down, you got the amp modeling right there. And the Kemper too. The Kemper, to me, if you're using in-ears, it's perfect.
Have you ever have you ever had the opportunity to use this pedal yet?
That the new is that new the new Boss DD the 200.
Yeah.
No, I was building before I went back to the Kemper. I was building the ultimate pedal board, and I was document. I had videos ready to go showing the whole process of it. I had what is it the chorus, the blue chorus, the Boss chorus one, the double, and then I had the delay one, the silver. What is it? It's bigger than that one. I can't
Oh,
remember.
the timeline Strymon?
No, they were both Boss. I was looking at the Strymons, but I went with Boss instead. But I had both of those, and I had that Friedman pedal on there that you had earlier, and at the board I had the Friedman actual board that he sells with the power bay in the patch bay in it and all that stuff. The thing was coming out beautiful, um, and right as I finished that board, I ended up we got this new management, and I'm like, oh geez, I can't take this board on a plane, and I'm only going to be able to use it local. So what the heck's the point? So I ended up selling everything, and I'm actually looking through my phone right now because I'm trying to find. I have a photo of what the board looked like when I finished, and then I sold it. So I'm trying to see where it is. I can probably hold it up to the camera so you can see. And I can't remember what Boss the two big Boss pedals that they sell. One's a chorus, or one's a modulation pedal, and one's a delay. But I can't
Yes.
remember the model, the name on them.
Oh, the DD 500,
That might be it.
MD 500, RV 500, and DD 500.
Yeah, it was the M and the D. Oh, here it is, right here.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's it.
that was the board I built. I took a lot of time, and I had to bought the ES. I don't know if that was the ES5, the switcher down there, but I had
Yeah.
that, and it came out. It sounded great. It sounded really good with an amp, but then we started switching over to in-ears, and I wasn't using an amp anymore. So I'm like, um, I can't use this. It's kind of a waste. So I ended up selling it, and then I got the Kemper again. Sold all, piece by piece. I went crazy making that board. I went through like 5 or 6 different versions of that before I settled on that final photo that you just saw. Um, I had the Strymon on first, a couple of those, and I sent those back and got the Boss and just switching things in and out. And my big one of my big worries with that was, and it happened at a rehearsal. I brought the board to rehearsal because there's so much going on. One of the cables came loose, so my sound was gone. Everything shut. Everything was gone. I had no signal, nothing. And I'm like, what happens if I'm at a show? And it was just a simple cable that just came out a little bit on one of the pedals, and it shut the whole board. Didn't shut it down, but there was no more sound. And there was so many cables and wires, and I had it all done nice and neat. And I'm like, what happens if I'm at a show and this happens? I don't have time while I'm on stage to be, going through, turning the board over and like which cable is out, so it kind of scared me a little bit. So at least with something like the Kemper, it's basically one cable. And then I have the head rush gig board I bring to shows as a backup.
Well, just to share the I'm not exactly a stranger to all-in-ones.
Yep.
But this actually is a pretty amazing little unit.
Yeah, I've heard good things about those. I had years ago I had the GT8. I had the Boss GT8 years ago. And the only reason I ended up getting rid of that is because I was using the JCM 2000 DSL, and I was trying to use the GT8 with that amp, and it every time I tried to plug it into that amp, it was a major buzz, and I got a hold of Boss trying to tech support and say, why am I getting all this noise trying to plug this into this amp? And they said, well, what amp is it? So I told them, and they're like, oh, that's one of the amps that it doesn't work with. So I had to sell that too. As soon as I plugged, I plugged the effects loop in, but as soon as I plugged the third cable in, it was over. The buzz was louder than what I was playing through there. So.
Well, that would explain, that would explain a lot. I mean, I have mostly Boss gear just because, well, the budget of the whole thing, but
well, Boss make good stuff. A lot of
and
my
I have a Series 200 EQ coming.
Yep.
That EQ, if you've ever had a chance to check it out, that EQ is pretty good. And I'm looking forward to it.
Are you talking about the pedal, the Boss, the EQ pedal?
Yes.
Which is the GE7?
No. This is a brand new one that's part of the 200 series.
Yeah, I've had the GE7 many times. That's a good pedal too.
Well, with the Boss 200 series EQ, you can program it. It has 4 user patches to where you can program it.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking at it.
Post and pre and post.
Yep.
It's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing.
It looks like it does a lot. I'm looking at it right now on Sweetwater. Yeah,
I'm asking myself, why am I building a pedal board? I don't really have a tube monster for a backline. Why am I doing this? And I convinced myself, and I believe it can still work. It's purely an experiment because I want to see if I could get the 2 notes torpedo cab M.
Oh yeah.
That has a power selection, power amp selection. If I could get that, get a Boss switcher, run my Friedman drives into the 2 notes device, can I use that as a direct out?
I think you can. Yeah. Well, but you would probably need some sort of preamp. You know what I mean? I know that the Friedman pedal is supposed to be like a mini version of his amps, but I think you would, if you had like a just, although the torpedo might, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm wondering if because you would just need a clean tone, a basic clean tone, and then run the Friedman pedal as your distortion. You know?
Well, there's a link I could send you if it's okay on the Two Notes Torpedo Cab M. I was
Yeah,
ple-
I've seen it. I've seen it.
I was pleasantly surprised. There was there was an overdrive, a drive pedal running straight into the Two Notes Torpedo Cab M with the power simulation turned on the Two Notes device, and it actually sounded like a head.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. I'm pretty sure you probably could just, if you went direct into that torpedo, it would just be a clean tone. So then you can just run your Friedman in front of that and your other drive pedals, and it'll be just like you're playing through a clean Fender amp.
Yeah,
You know, so yeah, that would definitely work.
that's cool. I'm happy to hear that because it's really important to me to be able to come up with a direct out pedal board.
Yeah.
Either that or I was also looking at the Boss GT 1000.
Yeah.
That's another real good piece of gear right there. Boss just totally nailed the amps, and of course the effects are world class. But I find myself just leaning toward pedals. So
Also, check out the. I'm sure you saw it at NAMM. That new the Line 6. The what is it? The Pod Go.
I've heard about that.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm not sure why they use the Pod name because it has a lot of the same stuff as the Helix. Not as not as extensive, but the same like engines and this close to the same DSP processor on it. Um, and I think it's only going to be like $450, and it has the expression
Wow.
pedal built into it, and you can load your own impulse responses, and it's if so, to me, if it's someone's looking for a cheaper alternative to the Helix, you know, and something that you can take and go somewhere and play, or if you want to run direct into your computer or whatever, I would definitely look at that because it's got most of the effects built in and has a lot of the amp models built in too. And it's not that big; it's small.
Is there um is there anybody that you would like to say hi to?
Well, if anybody, I know it's posting this on my Facebook and my social media stuff. So if anybody from there is watching, say hi. If any of the, like we said earlier, if any of the gear companies happen to catch this, say hi. Uh, get in touch with me. Be, I'll work with anybody as far as gear goes. So there's no, like I said, I'm not tied to one brand. If it's good, I will use it, and I'd be happy. And it's funny because going back to what we were talking about with some of these companies wanting, oh, you got to have 25,000 subscribers and this and that. And I'm trying to explain to them, yeah, that's fine, but you know, I'm playing to 5 to 10,000 people at shows. And there's not a show that goes by where someone in the crowd comes up after the show and asks me about my gear. He says, "What was that? You know, what's that green box back there that you're playing through? What is that?" And I tell, "Well, it's a Kemper," and I explain it to them. And they never heard of it before. So these companies probably shouldn't just stay bogged down to online presence. I mean, there's still a real world out here where people are actually going to shows and, you know, getting interested in gear just by seeing someone on stage playing something. So, it looks like there's another question here. Or is that old?
Well,
I thought I saw
there
that.
They're gosh, I do you find it easy with the Kemper to be able to really bring Richie Sambora's live tone? Is that a lot easier using the Kemper profiler?
I don't know if it's easier, more or less. It's easier in the fact that it's easier for me to travel with. It's easier for me to set up. I'm set up in a matter of minutes. Where years ago, you're carrying a 412 cabinet. You got a
Yeah,
100-watt head that's heavy. You got a pedal board with all these snake cables, and it'd take me an hour to get set up, get loaded in, and set up. Now it's basically within 15 minutes, I'm ready to go. And being able to profile, like Richie was using the Friedman amps for a while, um, before he left Bon Jovi, and he was still using them on his solo stuff. But so it's easy for me to get a profile of a Friedman to try to match his tone. So he's the type of guy that he's another guy. All his guitar players are the same. We're always changing our rig, always changing, and especially him. Every time I look up, he's playing a different guitar. So I can't do that, as far as guitars go. But now with the Kemper, if he changes amps, I can just get a profile of that amp and try to sound like
yeah.
he sounds currently. But I tend to stick with the Friedman and Marshall tones for the most part with the profiler.
Well, you'll be happy. You'll be happy to know, Rich, that this interview has been liked and shared. And thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sonic Sonia, for letting us know that.
Awesome.
I really
She,
appreciate that. Thank you so very much.
I think she had. Well, I don't know if this is right. She had another question. I don't know if she's leaving, but she was asking, what do I think of the Headrush multi effects pedal? And I think they're great. They're similar to the Helix, and actually, like I mentioned earlier, right to my right over here on my desk, I have the gig board, which is a smaller version of the pedal board, but it still has the same big touch screen on it, and the same. It's got all the same effects and amps and everything that the big board has. It's just smaller with less switches. So that's my backup. And I know I have a AC/DC tribute band friends that just use those gig boards live to get their tones. They just run that direct. They have no amps on the stage, and they sound. And I've heard them. They sound really good when they play live. So they got them dialed. It's all about, most of these modelers are good. You just have to know how to dial them in. That's it. And I always tell people, don't get discouraged. Say you buy a Helix and you're playing the presets that come with the Helix. Don't get discouraged, because most of these companies don't put good presets in their machines. I don't know why. But most of them, I'm like, to me, it's not a good way to sell the product, because to me, they don't sound good. They need to find the guys out there that make their own sounds from them and put those in and try to sell them, because
Yes.
usually the presets that come, when they're shipped, they just, to me, they don't. It just sounds like they slapped them in there. They didn't really take a lot of time with them. That's just my own personal preference.
Well, have you ever tried the KMD amps?
No, I wish. I see that over here. I wish. You don't see many of those around.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so very much, everybody in the chat. Thank you so much, everybody, for giving us your time this morning. Thank you, everybody, for your kindness and your thoughtfulness. And thank you to my very special guest, Mr. Rich Antonelli, for giving me his time this morning.
Well, thank you. I had a good time. This was fun. I'm always up for talking about guitars. So anytime.
Thank you, sir. That's nice to hear. Thank you, sir. There are a few things. Um, I won't keep you much longer. there's just a couple thoughts I had right now, and I just wanted to make sure to share them. Cutter Savage says, "Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cutter." The Sonic Sonia says, "Thanks, Will and Rich. It's been a wonderful show today. Definitely a good one." Well, thank you, Sonic
Yes,
Sonia.
thank you. Appreciate that.
That is awesome. Thanks again, everybody. And you know what I always say, folks, stay inspired. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
True.
Just live and love life, live your life in love and passion, and stand up for what you believe in, because that's who you are. Stay inspired, everybody. Next week, I hope to see everybody back. It's a very slow crawl here, but we're getting there. And please, again, follow Mr. Antonelli. Follow all Rich's links down the description box below. Support what he's doing. I do. Support what Mr. Antonelli is doing, because it's a wonderful, 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 wonderful thing. And check out Bon Jovi. If you haven't heard Bon Jovi yet, you know how everybody in the chat knows how I feel about music. Check Bon Jovi out, folks.
And hopefully we'll be coming to wherever you're located at some point with a show. So
Well,
my fingers are crossed that we'll be doing a lot of traveling this year.
that's the thing. Support, support, support Rich Antonelli and what he's doing. Don't forget yours truly, this little old guy over here, the dreamer. And support our channels. We love what we're doing. We're doing it because we're passionate about it. This is hard stuff. Just love what we're doing. We need to support each other, folks. This is a cold, cruel world, as we all know. We need to support each other, and the guitar community and music community need to support each other. Thank you so much, everybody. Stay inspired. Stay positive. Thank you, everybody. You guys rock. Thank you so much, everybody. On behalf of Mr. Antonelli and I, thank you so much. And live in love and live in peace, live in music.